Hi everyone, this is Lean and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you are joining me again today because I have some final Mother's Day card inspiration using the Mama Bear stamp set from Crafty Meraki as well as an older set called the Love Slimline Tag Die. Now first of all, I'm starting with the Giraffes. I don't have matching dies, so just to be sure that my fussy cutting wouldn't ruin my colored image, I first fussy cut this image out before starting to color. So that's why I am just fiddling here with a die cut image. Die cut with a fussy cut image, but it was quite doable. Now, personally, I love matching dies, you know that, and I would definitely get my hands on it. Here, for example, you have those white areas in between the giraffes, and you can definitely cut the white from in between, but that's really for the experts in fussy cutting and maybe cutting things with a craft knife. I am not that evolved in fussy cutting, so I just kept it like this. But then later on, I'm going to add this on a specific area on the card, and you actually don't see it that hard that I didn't cut the pieces out. So that's really handy to know. For the coloring, I have listed the markers on my blog post, so you can check that out. I wanted to have two different colors of giraffes. Now normally I use the color that you can see here on the biggest one, but I decided that I wanted the smaller one to be lighter. So therefore I just went a bit further in this combination. I looked for markers that could continue the combination that I already had so that it would still match but be completely different. So I hope that will be clear later on what I'm trying to say here. But really simple coloring. I'm trying to have shadows on the left side because they are facing towards the right, so that's a way of shadowing that works quite a lot of times for me. And then the spots, I'm just using two markers, really simple. Now, I say it all the time, every time that I'm coloring with Copics, I need my colorless blender. It's a really handy marker to have, in my opinion. Whenever you go outside the lines, you can push that color back in if you want to. You can of course use a white jelly roll pen as well. There are many options to get rid of some boo-boos, but I really love a colorless blender. Since I started Copic coloring, I don't think that there is any card where I didn't use that marker. So here onto that tiny giraffe, it has some really soft colors, actually the two lightest colors of the yellow of the big one. And then the spots will, well, have the lightest color of the spots on the big one and then the darkest color of the yellow of the big one. It might seem a bit complicated, but actually I haven't used a lot of markers for this coloring, which is handy if you don't have a lot of markers yet. Like I do, I am building up my stash. Currently I already have quite a lot of markers, I cannot complain, but it's just a collection that is growing along the way, and it will just continue to grow. So I'm always trying to find combination that can work in several ways, and this definitely is a way that I think is stretching your markers in a good way so that you can have a lot of use out of it. Now for my card, I just die cut an A2 size panel with some basic dies, and then I die cut the love twice. Now I want to have some sort of a gradient in the background here, and I already made two Mother's Day cards, so this is my third. I always need two, but I never want my mother-in-law or my own mother to know which card is for who. So therefore I always make a few extras and then I can decide. Now of course I already know who is going to get which card, and I think this beautiful card will be for my mother-in-law. I was truly inspired with the colors this year, depending on the person I intended to make the card for. And I know that my mother loves the Bordeaux red. So I made a card for her. with that color. But my mother-in-law, she really loves these bright um, colors that also return in nature. So this bright blue, which is soft but still bright, and then that gorgeous twisted citron. Truly is a match made in heaven when I think about my mother-in-law and which color she would pick herself. So therefore, a little secret in between, this card is for her, for the mother-in-law. So that being said, here I'm really trying to get that blend. I'm just working my way and I'm going lighter and lighter. For that blue, I'm using the same blending brush, really easy. These colors are really close to each other, so you can always use the same blending brush in my opinion when the colors are really close, or if you want a gradient in a specific color family. But for the greens, however, I took another one to really have that bright green. I'm overlapping with the blue, so there is still that transition, but that's what I'm going to do. Now I decided to lay out that love to see whether I liked the background, and I must admit I was happy with the blend, but I was afraid that the love would sort of fade out into that white area, which was, well, it was part of the idea, but I just thought that the V wasn't that clear. So I had two just for dimension, but instead of just adhering them straight on top of each other, I decided to just add a bit of my darkest distress ink that I used in the background on the edge of the love, specifically on the right sides of each letter, so that I could put one on top of the other and just offset them slightly, so that I had that one color peek from underneath and everything would be defined. So we have the L, the O, the V, and the E that will all show up just because we will slightly offset it and it got this color. At the same time, it will also match with the background since we used one of those colors. You can definitely use greens as well, or any color you incorporate in your background. This way everything matches, and at the same time it's really subtle. So I adhered them on top of each other, but before adding everything on top of the card, I decided to add another greeting. This one is from the Mama Bear sentiment, well, from the stamp set. It's one of the sentiments in this stamp set. I love the sentiments in this stamp set. They just have it all. And with the giraffe and the little one looking up, I just thought this was the perfect sentiment. Now to add a bit more to this card, however, I decided to die cut some clouds, and these are from the hard air balloon die set from My Favorite Things, also available at Crafty Meraki. And I just die cut them several times, and I started just having fun laying them out on top of my background here until I was happy with placement, and then I could truly start adhering everything on top of this card. So I'm using some liquid glue. I'm also going to use some thin foam squares for the giraffes. Just having fun with that placement of all of these clouds. And of course I'm adding them straight on top of my card base because other images will still be overlapping. This way I don't have to fiddle with heights of my dimensional adhesive that I might have used. Next up, the love, and then we will finish off with truly the stars of this card being the giraffes. So I'm making sure that this love is straight on top of my card, and then I can press it down, put an acrylic block on top of it to help me in any way, and then I'm adding those thin foam squares on the back of the giraffes. This is my favorite adhesive. I love it. It gives a bit of dimension but not too much. It's subtle but still. So that's what I really love. Also, if you need to have smaller parts, definitely cut it with your scissors while it's still on that paper. This way you can still use that other part without fiddling. Now next up I'm adding these giraffes, and as I said in the beginning, that love is white and therefore it isn't that visible that I didn't fussy cut those elements out. in between the giraffes, and that's what I really love. It wasn't my intention, but it was genius in the end, I think. Um, so just adding this panel now on top of my card base, and then this card is completely finished. Of course you can add more, you can add embellishment, glossy accents, glitter if you want to, but I think this card has just enough. um, so that is my card for today. That is going to be my mother-in-law Mother's Day card. I hope that I could inspire you today and that you have fun creating. I hope that you have the most gorgeous card prepped for your mom or that woman in your life that is really special. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!